What's up guys, my name is Ace, and since the big update last week for Battlefield 6 that reverted aim assist back to the beta values, they also made some tweaks and adjustments to how joysticks will feel and handle on a controller, and at the same time, they reset most if not all of our settings, you might have noticed. Since then, I've had a lot of people asking for an updated controller settings video since they really liked my first one and it worked really well for them, but then suddenly after the update, those settings aren't working quite as well. And initially, I just kept playing with the same settings I was using, and I was finding it was still fine, but it obviously felt different. And it just wasn't quite ideal, so I have been spending a little bit of time really dialing things in to adjust my settings to get them to feel better after this update. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. Just keep in mind, I'm not going to be going into nearly as much depth as far as explaining how each one of these settings work like I did in the first video. If you guys are interested in seeing that, I'd still recommend checking out the first video, because that one does go into quite a bit of detail explaining the settings and how they work. Instead, for this one, we're just going to be blasting through and I'm going to be sharing what I adjusted and where I'm sitting at right now for my controller settings. And as always with any settings video, this is just designed to be used as a starting point for you to build off of. I highly encourage you to make adjustments to better suit you. This is just designed to give you a baseline of where I'm at and what works for me. So without further ado, let's dive right into it, and we're just looking at controller settings today. I'm not going to get into graphics and everything like that. None of that has changed for me. But with this, we want to click controller settings, go to edit settings, and the primary focus here is going to be this controller settings tab. And when it comes to my base infantry aim sensitivity, I haven't touched this at all. This has remained consistent for me. It's at 60. I feel like this is a nice balance where, at least when I'm in hip fire, I can still turn around reasonably quickly. So if something happens behind me, I can still get turned around in time and not feel like I'm painfully slow. My field of view is unchanged here. It's 105. My vertical aim ratio, I've explained this in the past, this is unchanged for me as well. I like dropping this down to 45. It's not perfectly balanced between horizontal and vertical like it would be with, I believe it was 56.3 off the top of my head. I like going a little bit lower here so that vertical sensitivity just feels a little bit slower because I just find that helps a bit more with recoil control. Next, I don't use uniform infantry aiming. I explained that in great detail in the first video and nothing has changed there. For my aim assist values, at the moment, I'm leaving these at 100. Previously, before this aim assist change, I actually felt like I needed to drop this, and I was using 80 as my aim assist value because I just felt like the full strength aim assist would often get in the way, and I felt myself having to fight it to get onto the actual character model, especially while sniping. And that was one of the big reasons they reverted the aim assist changes, because especially for those high zoom optics at long range, it was causing issues where it definitely seemed like you had to fight your aim assist too much. So that's why I'm back to 100 at least for now. I may change this over time, but it's feeling good at the moment. Then something I have changed is my infantry aim input curve. At launch, I was using standard and that was working quite well for me. What I found though is I wanted a little bit more of a flat feeling on the low end of stick movement. So if I'm just barely moving my stick, I want to see very fine adjustments to my aim. But then if I really want to spin quickly and ramp that up, you can see it's sort of exponential. It's the same general shape to the curve as standard. It's just a little bit flatter on that bottom end, which I'm really liking. So I have swapped over to BF1 after this aim assist adjustment. It is also worth noting they have added a dynamic curve. I think this feels awful in this game. I don't recommend it personally. I just feel like it's way too responsive on the low end. But I just wanted to point that out for anybody that has been looking for a dynamic curve. It exists now. And before we get into one of the really important changes I made here, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that my controller partner, Aim Controllers, has their huge Black Friday sale on right now, where you can fully max out your custom controller with every feature you want on it for a set price of $199. So that means you can get the TMR sticks, which I highly recommend, the brand new reinforced Aim V4 paddles, digital face buttons, smart triggers, and more from now until December 15th. That's when the sale ends. And of course, all of this comes with Aim's lifetime warranty on any modified part. So if you guys are looking to upgrade your controller game, now is the best time of the year to do it. I will leave my special affiliate link down below, or use code ACE at checkout if you're planning on picking one up. Now, getting back into it, let's have a look at our infantry left-right acceleration. This is something I've also made a key adjustment to. I've actually ramped this value up to 90. And the reason behind this is I do feel like the aim assist doesn't grab quite as hard when you're sweeping over your target with this reverted beta style aim assist. And as a result, with my more snappier, lower left-right acceleration that I used to have, I found myself often sweeping over the target and overshooting a little bit, Whereas now, by increasing this value, even though it sounds counterintuitive, this actually sort of slows things down a little bit. There's a little less acceleration, even though the value is going higher. But essentially, it just makes it a little less snappy. And just like with my input curve that I adjusted, less snappy is what I wanted to see with this newer style of aim assist, or I guess older style of aim assist returning. And I've landed on 90 for my acceleration. I wasn't expecting to go this high. I was really hesitant initially to bump it this high, but it was simply what was feeling best for me, and it's now what I'm using. Then scrolling through movement here, the only thing I really changed is I made sure slide is mapped to R3. I've also mapped steady scope to L2, and this means when sniping, the moment I aim down sight, I'm immediately starting to hold my breath. And I just find that's really nice and helpful while sniping. And then for all of these values, since I'm not using uniform infantry aiming, I have adjusted these on a per zoom basis, and I haven't changed anything since the update, but I'll still show you guys where I'm sitting at when it comes to this. For my infantry zoom aim sensitivity, I'm at 80. I have turned off zoom transition sensitivity smoothing, so it's more of a snappy feel when coming in and out of aiming down sight while sweeping across. And then for anything 2.5 multiplication and lower, I like a 75. For 3 to 4, I like an 80. 4.5 to 5, I leave this at 100. And then anything higher, when I'm like sniping, for instance, 6x and up, I like going with 110, just so that I can track targets that are moving perpendicular to me a little bit better. If I drop this value too low, I wouldn't be able to do that. And it just helps me sort of snap from target to target while aiming down sight. And I feel like with the current state of aim assist, it feels much better now as well sniping. And outside of that, that's pretty much it for the settings that I've adjusted here. However, let's get into my control mapping, just to show you guys where I'm sitting at with all of these, and none of this stuff has changed here. One thing that I changed at launch, and I'm sticking to, is I like swapping my ping with my grenade. So ping is on R1, grenade is on L1. That just feels much more natural to be pinging while aiming down sight. And that one's been working really well for me since launch, so I'm still using that. Next, scrolling down, I like crouching with R3 rather than circle, so I swap this with melee. And so melee I have on circle and crouch I have on R3. Also, slide is set to R3 as we saw earlier. This means also I've remapped melee to circle, so it's more of like a tactical layout from Call of Duty, for instance. And then scrolling down, the only other thing I've changed here is my steady scope, again, mapped to L2. One other thing that I adjusted at launch is my rangefinder zeroing if zoomed. I had this mapped to L3, and I guess I'll leave it there, but from now on, I don't really intend on using the rangefinder. It just takes a lot of the satisfying feeling away from sniping, so I don't really care what that's bound to, because I just don't want to use the rangefinder anymore. I feel like it just takes so much out of the sniping experience, and I would much rather zero manually or learn my holdovers. And there we go. That's all of my infantry settings, which is all we're focusing on today. I still haven't really had the time to dive into all my vehicle settings. I just don't touch vehicles. I'm primarily just focused on infantry stuff. However, it is worth noting, scrolling down to controller tuning, there are some very important settings down here, and I just wanted to go over those again. For me, I don't like vibration at all with my controller, so I just turned that off entirely. For our left stick dead zones, my center dead zone I've got set to 1, axial dead zone is at 8, and my max input threshold is 70 on this, just so it's a lot more responsive with movement. For my right stick, I've got my center dead zone at 0.5, even though I technically have 0 dead zone with my TMR sticks. I still like having a slight amount of dead zone, just in case. Once again, I like my axial dead zone at 8. I just feel like that's a nice balance for me. And I have actually dropped my max input threshold on this down to 90, just to compress that input curve a little bit more. It just feels more natural for me, so I'm liking that at 90 at the moment. And then I've just dropped my max input thresholds on L2 and R2 down to 70 as well. And that's it. That's everything that I've changed when it comes to my controller settings since the big update last week. And this has been feeling a lot better for me. Like I said, like my old settings were still working fine, but these are just working a little bit better. And often that little bit of adjustment can go a really long way when it comes to your controller settings. Now with this, I'm very curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Now that we've had a little bit of time for that update to settle in, how are you feeling about them reverting the aim assist back to the beta values, as well as making a few adjustments to controller feel with that update? Do things generally feel better for you, or maybe worse? Did you prefer the aim assist as it was at the launch of the game? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.